Welcome, everybody, to the Sheridan Report on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. The Sheridan Report is brought to you by MyBookie.ag. You can go to MyBookie.ag, enter the promo code TGT100 to get up to a 100% cashback bonus on your first deposit, up to $300. Also, you can go to thegruelingtruth.com, click on the MyBookie.ag banner at the top of the page. I am your co-host for the Sheridan Report, Mike Goodpaster, and right now I want to welcome in my co-host, Bobby Sheridan from the Sheridan Report. How you doing, Bobby?
Mike, I'm doing great this morning, and I'm not going to ask you how your day was yesterday because we could get off talking about Walmart or something. So let's just
I love talking
say
about
I'm doing
Walmart,
great.
Bobby. They got everything there.
I'm doing great, Mike, and I was happy with Portland being able to cover that spread last night, not have that thing get away from them in terms of the against the spread part of it, and I was happy that our top play won and it was an underdog, like it always is. And I was glad that the underdogs were able to win 4 of the 10 games. So that tells me baseball.
All right. So
parity might be back.
Get us started on baseball then.
All right, let's go baseball today, Mike, and let's give you the mix and match portion of our baseball, 3-team parlay. You can take all 3 of these together, and these 3 together pay a whopping price today, over 500 for 100. So over 5-1 odds on these 3 games, and that's the Rockies, Indians, and Marlins. And only early start would be the Indians at 3:10 Pacific. The others are in the 4 o'clock hours, so 6 o'clock and 7 o'clock Eastern hours. Indians are throwing Trevor Bauer. The Rockies are throwing Herman Marquez. And the Marlins are throwing a guy by the name of Smith, Caleb Smith. And at the end of the first half, All-Star break, Mike, every team is going to be represented by at least one player. Well, I'm going to go on a limb right now and say that Caleb Smith is going to be a first-time All-Star for the Miami Marlins. The guy's pitching fabulously. They're number 1. His ERA is in the 2s. And I believe Miami coming off of a sweep of the Mets with a rested bullpen. And I love teams going out on the road that worked for us yesterday after a home sweep that worked yesterday with the Phillies. I believe Caleb Smith, the All-Star for the Marlins of 2019, will go down there and beat the Tigers, who have been playing miserably. So I like that pitching matchup a lot, Mike. So that's part of the mix and match. That line's at plus 100. You can also bet that game straight. There was a minus 05 last night, and I really wanted to have that thing fill out our 3-teamer. So you can also bet that one straight. The other 2 are Cleveland at minus 125, as I said, with Bauer, and the Colorado Rockies with Marquez at minus 124. Over, Chris Archer, who will be making his second start from the DL, and he still has not gotten going in Pittsburgh with the quality outings that what they expected from him when they traded one of their best prospects for him last year at the deadline. So Pittsburgh playing their first game at home after a road trip that was very successful. That's a dangerous spot for them. So that's where we're at there. Mike, let's move on to the straight plays. And I'll give them to you sort of in order. You got the Phillies at plus 128 with Zach Eflin. That's about all left-handers. I like the Phillies in this series. Eflin has actually been out pitching Quintana over the last 4 outings. I like the Nationals, who are swinging the bat well. They picked up Trey Turner to go plug into their offense at the top of the order. He's a run producer, Mike. He scores runs, steals bases. He's a tough out that moves everybody down a peg. And Zach Wheeler has just not gotten it done, nor have the Mets. And the first coaching casualty might be Mickey Callaway, by the way. Nationals are plus 133. And then the 2 top plays. The 2 top plays would be the Cincinnati Reds, your Reds, Mike, going to Milwaukee, and the Giants, my Giants, who we won with some, lost with more than some. I still feel like they're ready to play their best baseball. And that's our top 2 plays with Sonny Gray at plus 128 over the Brewers. That's a number 1, number 2, number 3 type arm He's been giving up 2-3 runs over 6 innings every game. That's good enough to win in Milwaukee. Gio Gonzalez is the number 5-6 starter that they picked up, veteran, who has pitched really, really well. But those number 5 or 6 guys, they don't have long stretches. If you've gotten 3 in a row out of him, you're pretty fortunate. I think he throws in a clunker tonight. I think Cincinnati with the day off and the rested bullpen, I think they win both parts of that game that we always talk about. Milwaukee just used their bullpen quite a bit in the last series, so I think Cincinnati's got a big shot there. And the Giants are throwing a kid named Sean Anderson, Mike, who made his first start last game, and he gave up only a couple runs. He was only scored on in 1 of the 6 innings, and they had a lead, darn it, and the bullpen gave up the lead. Came back and won that game, but he should have had his first victory in his career, and he got 2 hits to boot. He got a double and a single, and he's their top prospect, and he's going to go again tonight. A lot of times things get blown and the kids win or something happens. That team or that player will come back and make amends the next time. So I think San Francisco is going to support him tonight over a up and down Julio Teheran. So I like the Giants. So there's your baseball, Mike. A lot of good plays there. That's four dog straight plays. 5 if you count Miami at plus 100, and you can mix and match any of that stuff. But my best 3 plays would be the Giants, the Reds, and Miami.
All right, Bobby, you want to talk a little hockey?
I do, Mike. This is your forte. You've been about 70% on air.
I think it's more like 130%, but all right, we'll go with 70.
San Jose at St. Louis. What do you got, Mike?
Well, we got Game 6 of the conference finals. The Blues have not been to the Stanley Cup Finals since 1970. I think tonight they will change that. I think they're going to sweep. This will be their 3rd straight win. They are up 3 games to 2 in this series, and even though they won the last game dominating at San Jose, you still don't want to go back to San Jose and play Game 7. Anything can happen there, especially with the Sharks and the referees calls they've gotten so far this series or these entire playoffs. I just think Jordan Bennington is going to shut them down tonight. I think you're going to get a Blues win. I'm going to say 4-1. The only thing that sucks is on my bookie, the Blues are minus 185 now.
Oh, wow. They're getting the action. I got it at 170 on mine.
Oh. Still go bet it at mybookie.ag because you get a free deposit up to $300, 100%. Let's see.
Heck yeah, so why not?
Yeah.
I'll tell you this, Mike. I would not bet against your Blues. I would not take the value that I would like to take. So let's take St. Louis, and even at 180, don't care what they are because we're going to put them in a parlay with a couple of those mix and match baseballs or 2 of the top plays, or you can add in another top play, which we're going to go over right now, which is the basketball game.
Yeah, let's talk about it. The Eastern Conference Finals tonight. Game 4, the Milwaukee Bucks travel to Toronto to play the Raptors. The Raptors are trying to tie the series at 2. The Bucks can pretty much hammer this down with a win tonight. The Bucks are favored by 3 on the road, at least by my bookie, and are on minus 155.
That's correct, Mike. And let's go back a day and reference the value in the point spread and how that came through for us with that win last night. Portland was minus 2.5, minus 3 in Game 3 because that's the game they had to win, and Las Vegas gave them the full 10.5 point difference between home venues. And Portland opened up an 11, 13, 15-point lead. It was 11.5, I believe. Big bet for me. Top play for a lot of people that I know. And they blew the game. And they blew the series. But there was an overreaction to the line because the public is going to now just hammer Golden State because they think it's over, and it is. But there were enough factors we talked about that allowed Portland to take those extra 6 points and play within. That's a nice cushion, nice window between Game 3 and Game 4, and lo and behold, they lose by 2 and they cover the spread. This is the same sort of thought process not the same series, but it's the same sort of thought process. You've got Milwaukee now because they're supposed, they outplayed Toronto and got beat. Or let's put it this way. They may not have outplayed them, but they played a subpar game. We're going to look at why in a second. But they got beat. And they're expected to win Game 4. As I said, the Superbook already put up a line, Golden State minus 140 in that series. As a series bet to a week ahead to induce, some excitement and talk about the series. Well, Toronto, let's put the brakes on that because they win Game 3. All right. And we had them. And now Game 4 comes around where it's supposed to be Milwaukee's game and people watch and this is what they've come up with. Now Milwaukee's a 3-point favorite. Toronto was just favored in Game 3. So I believe you've got the same scenario working here where you've got plus 3 points is going to be a tough road there. That's number one. Okay, number two, why did they get beat in Game 3? Well, Toronto made adjustments defensively on how to defend Milwaukee. And it resulted in Milwaukee with their worst shooting performance in the playoffs. And their star player being held, he's going to get his rebound. So he wasn't held down in those areas. And the team is collapsing on him, so he's going to get his assists. But they didn't make many shots around him. And they defended him, and he only scored 11 points. So the bottom line is Milwaukee, the other 3-4 main scorers in the team, they didn't get it done. They shot 3 for 17, 3 for 16. These are Middleton and Bledsoe numbers. The bench came through. Milwaukee their bench players still played tremendous. So it really fell on the starters. And it fell on Toronto's adjustments in Game 3 defensively. And then getting 19 points from Powell. They won despite Lowry in major foul trouble and despite Danny Green hitting only one field goal. Marc Gasol had the best game of his Toronto career, which is, half a season. Veteran player that had an outstanding game. Serge Ibaka did not play well. So Toronto, they could really up their level a lot in Game 4. Milwaukee now, I think, has some doubts as to whether the changes, that they're going to have to come back with. I think for the first time, Milwaukee's got doubts. That Boston loss didn't faze them at all. They had swept Detroit. But this loss was a game that they could have won, and they didn't. So what does that do for Toronto's confidence? Hey, we can win. We can beat these guys. We can beat these guys without Lowry even in the game the last 10 minutes. We can beat these guys with Serge Ibaka not even playing very well. On and on and on. They only shot 39%, Mike, and they still won the game. Well, we're playing at the same venue, Toronto, which is a great home court. Loudest from what I heard those guys talking about in the whole league. So I believe Toronto's got a big shot in this game. You're going to give me 3 points at home? That's a top play for me. Milwaukee is a great team, and they're still going to win this series, more than likely. But there's question and there's doubt for the first time on the Milwaukee camp, in my opinion. And I think Toronto can force this back to Milwaukee 2-2. So I'm going to take the 3 points, Mike. I'm going to take the plus 132 on the money line. I'm going to hope to have a 10-point lead at half. That might be asking too much, but I'm going to hope to. And see if we can ride this home.
All right, Bobby. You want to get on this day?
Let's do on this day, Mike. There's a couple good ones, but there's a slam dunk one. 1966, Muhammad Ali TKO's Henry Cooper in 6 for the heavyweight boxing title.
Yeah, and they had fought one other time. And the interesting thing about this is their first fight, even though Henry Cooper got pretty much butchered like a hog, it made him a legend in the lore of the UK. And Cooper was a guy who was 40-14. He had a huge hook. He was a big puncher. He fought Ali first before Ali fought Sonny Liston. He fought him in, I believe it was like June of '63. And this was a fight that Ali, the one fight that he had trouble with in the 60s was Doug Jones. He got a close win over Doug Jones at Madison Square Garden. They decided to go over to London, England and fight Cooper. And Ali said that Cooper was a tramp, a bum, a cripple, not worth training for. And the fight started off that way. 35,000 people at Wembley. At the time, it was the biggest crowd to see a fight in the UK, and it stayed that way until about 50 years later, 40 years later, when Mikhail Kessler fought against Joe Calzaghe at Wembley. And Ali weighed 207 at the time. Cooper was only 187. There was no cruiserweight division, so if you were above 175, you were a heavyweight. And Cooper came after Ali from the start of the fight. He's one of the few that did. And Ali wasn't doing poorly, but Cooper gave him a little bit more trouble than normally. And in the fourth round, Clay, his name was Cassius Clay at the time. We'll call him Ali, though. But Cooper had blood streaming down his face, and he continued those aggressive tactics. And he caught Ali right before the end of the round and dropped him. Now, Ali was only dropped 4 times in his entire career. And there's 2 things here that happened simultaneously to kind of save Ali from possibly being knocked out. And number 1 was it was the end of the round. But number 2, the ropes had cushioned Ali's fall. If this would have happened in the middle of the ring, Ali may have never recovered and may not have won the fight. Now, in between rounds 4 and 5 of the first fight, Angelo Dundee had to help Ali to his corner. Ali was clearly shaken up by the knockdown, was disoriented for a few seconds, and attempting at one point to rise from the stool. Dundee appeared to pop smelling salts under Ali's nose, which if he would have been caught, he would have been disqualified. The film is inconclusive when you look at it. It's really hard to tell if he did or not, but most of the people around there, of course they were Brits, thought that he did. Dundee then waved at a referee, Tommy Little, showed Little Ali's right glove, which had apparently split down a seam, revealing horsehair stuffing, and could have injured Cooper's eyes. Officials were requested by Dundee to obtain a new pair of gloves for Ali. And the popular myth is that the resulting confusion led to an interval between rounds 4 and 5 that was extended by 20, 30 seconds to help Ali recover. In fact, when you watched the film of the fight, there was no confusion. The referee refused to suspend the fight to get the new glove in, and the 5th round was delayed by maybe 3 seconds at the most. In the 5th round, Ali came out, started throwing a flurry of punches, stopped messing around, and just destroyed Cooper. Now, the great thing for Cooper, though, is immediately after this fight, he becomes a legend in Great Britain because that's a country that doesn't mind losing. But if you lose valiantly, they'll love you, sometimes even more than they love winners, because England's a country of losers. But look at the Revolutionary War. I'm not saying anything controversial here because if you look at the history of English boxing, guys like Frank Bruno, who made a career of getting knocked out in every big fight he had, is absolutely adored there. And just the way it is. Now, they fight a second fight in 1966, and this is for Ali's heavyweight title. He upset Sonny Liston. He defended the title multiple times, and he goes back to Wembley, and they get a crowd of 46,000, which was bigger than the crowd before, and that's until Calzaghe Kessler drew 55,000, I think, in 2007, 2008. Cooper didn't come close to winning this fight. Ali basically beat his ass, had him bleeding all over the place. The fight gets stopped in the 6th round. That's pretty much it. But the thing that struck me the most when you watch the first fight and the second fight is the way that Ali had trouble with Cooper's aggressive style in the first fight. 3 years later, he was ready for it, adjusted to it, and even Henry Cooper said that. He said the most impressive thing that I found from this was I had the style that could upset him, and it was proven in the first fight when I almost did. But he said, I must say, Ali's as quick a learner as you ever find in a ring. In the second fight, he learned. He would stand none of my nonsense. I couldn't mess around on the inside. He said every time I got inside, I was being held. I was being pushed off. I was being whacked upside the head. And he said it was like being in a vice. He just held me until the referee broke, And then when the referee broke, he'd step back and just beat me around my face and make me bleed more. So it was the great thing about Ali. And when you look at Ali's career in the 60s, he was this amazingly fast dude that just beat the hell out of everybody. When you fast forward to the 70s, he was a guy that no longer was quick. But in 1974, 14 years after he turned pro, he found a way to beat a young George Foreman. And the way he beat him was, the rope-a-dope, taking the punches, stuff like that. And he stood and fought with Joe Frazier in the third fight. He stood and fought with Ernie Shavers. And then when he gets to 1977 or 78 and he gets upset by Leon Spinks, he gets himself in the best shape of his life and comes out and boxes like it's 1965 again. And the thing that was amazing about Ali, and what I think makes him the greatest heavyweight of all time, was his ability to have enough nuance in the way he fought, the way he went about his craft, that he could beat you in multiple ways. So even if you came out and had success early, he would switch it up and find a different way to counteract you and to beat you. And that's what made Ali a legend.
Wow. You're right about that. And the thing about the Cooper fights, I think after that round, it was much more to do, not with the delay or any of that kind of stuff. It was much more to do with Cooper got his respect, and he got up and knew what he had to do from that.
Yeah, and he just went out and he tore his damn head off. And the thing was, Angelo Dundee was trying to get the fight delayed. But Angelo Dundee is doing what any great coach or trainer in that situation does, which is to amplify the chances for his fighter to win. So I don't hold it against him. I do like the fact that the referee didn't fall for it, though, and because if that would have happened to this day, you'd have all the Brits running around and say, well, Ali was about to get knocked out. But since it wasn't that way, the Brits were wrong, just like in 1776.
Right, and then the next fight, like he said, he's a quick study, and he was ready for him, and he had respect for him from round one, right from the get-go, in his training and in everything else.
All right, Bobby. Anything else before we wrap it up? I know you got to be going. You got some stuff you got to do.
Yeah, no, we're good, Mike. I appreciate you doing the show a little early today for me, and I appreciate hearing that about Muhammad Ali. And I learned something new today about him, and I agree with you. I think he's the best ever, and I wouldn't know how to say why, but now I could do that. I appreciate that, Mike.
All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up. I want to make sure you go check out Phil Rankin's The Handicapping Guide. You can go on to grillingtruth.com, go halfway down the page, the little box right to the right there. Make sure you click that. Phil picked the winner for the Preakness last week, so Phil's definitely legit when it comes to handicapping the ponies. The Sheridan Report, you can find SheridanReport.com or at Sheridan Report. You can get the $5 top play of the day. You can pay $10 for the day for all Bobby's picks, or $40, $50 for the entire month. So make sure you check that out also. Me and Jeremiah will be back with Inside Boxing Daily at 11 o'clock Eastern tonight, so make sure you check that out. And remember, follow all of our shows. You can go to iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify, Zeno Live Radio, YouTube. Over 250 different places you can find our podcast now, and we will have some big information coming on some more places you'll be able to find it shortly. But for now, for Bobby Sheridan, I'm Mike Goodpastor. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.